Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Leppy Duels. It's episode 19. I am still your host, Jacob Arvidsson, and we are still presented by JRV Media. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We appreciate your support at home. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so below. Your support really helps us out, and we appreciate you guys a lot. If you're new and joining us for the first time, or you just need a refresher, here's how the show works. In a moment, you will meet our 4 distinguished guests. Each of those guests are going to go 1v1 versus the other 3 contestants. In each of those duels, each contestant will have 1 minute to deliver their points on the assigned debate topic, along with an additional 20 seconds to respond to their opponent's comments. After that, I, as the host, will determine a winner of each duel, and the first one to fill up their scoring bar wins the episode. Simple enough, let's meet the guests for this week. First up, returning after his victory in episode 18, it's the team captain of Discraft Underground, Wes Shinevar. Our second guest this week hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan, joining us after a brief hiatus. Welcome back, the brand manager of Great Lakes Disc, Brian Papa Wolf Frawley. Third guest, he's a big part of the show, and he's been here plenty of times, multi-time winner and brand manager at Latitude 64, Seth Fendley. And finally, rounding out the cast this week, after a B-tier win this past weekend, it's touring professional, DGA-sponsored Trevor Harbolt. Thanks so much for joining us, all 4 of you guys. Excited to hear you talk some disc golf. Seth and Wes, you guys are going to be up first. You're debating the Preserve Championship, which we are going to be watching in full this weekend. We're excited for it. What is the biggest storyline heading into the Preserve this weekend, Seth?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest storyline at Preserve, when you think about it, right, we're looking ahead. And, it's really easy to talk about storylines after a tournament's over. But going into this tournament, I think the biggest storyline is going to be the grind, right? This is our 3rd Elite Series in a row. And with that comes not only fatigue from the players, but injuries. So it would not surprise me. We're recording this on Tuesday night. It would not surprise me if we see more players drop from Preserve than already have because of injuries that maybe haven't even happened yet. Right. One of the things that we've been seeing out on tour recently is that players are getting a round or 2 in of practice and then coming up or having injuries occur to them because of the fatigue that comes from being on the road. And so I think the biggest storyline that we're going to see this weekend is going to be how players are handling playing 3 elite events in a row back to back, the grind that's out there, and what they're doing to prepare for the European swing.
All right, good take, Seth. Wes, where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I think the story for me is the UDisc stats. When you look at the UDisc stats for the FPO field, they are giving Kristen Tatar a 62% chance to win. 62% in a field, in the best FPO field I think that we've probably seen in the history of the game. Yes, Kristen is dominant, but 62% is a little bit mind-blowing to me. The next highest percent chance to win is 7% for Paige and Kat, and then you have Missy at 6%, who's been in the mix all year. You look at the difference of 55% chance to win between Kristen and the next woman in the field is just a little bit mind-blowing to me. I know that Kristen has been dominant throughout the season. She's been incredible. She continues to play well. Even if it is just boring golf, I think that it obviously works for her, but for her to have a 55% chance higher than the next women in the field is a little bit mind-blowing to me.
Seth, go ahead and respond.
Yeah, so you know what? Here's the reality. Kristen currently sits 200 points ahead of the next competitor in Pro Tour standings. The reality of that is that she is winning, she is dominating, and there's no one close to her right now. So you just saying that she has a 62% chance, first off, isn't saying that she's going to win it, right? It's just saying that she has a very high likelihood of winning it. But second, it shows and is backed up in the stats. I think that Wes also just sort of conveniently went all in on Kristen, didn't really talk about the fatigue issue at all. And I think one of the things that sort of squeaked in on the tail end is what we're going to see this week and next week really is how players are preparing for the European swing and whether they give a second thought to having this event as one that they need in their stats or if this is one that they can afford to drop.
Okay, Wes, he called you out a little bit there, but you guys both have great takes so far. Go ahead and close this duel up.
Yeah, the fatigue sure is a little bit of a storyline, but these pros know what they're signing up for when they're making their schedules, and they elect to play these events in a row. I think there's some of the players who plan their schedules out that just aren't going to be at this event, which kind of takes away from the storyline a little bit. I think Kristen Tatar's dominance this season is really a continued storyline that we see throughout the season that holds interest. I think for her to have that pressure every week, a 62% chance to win, is just incredible. And I just think it's a really interesting storyline, really week in and week out, and especially as we go into the preserve this week too, over some fatigue.
All right, Wes, I do like your take. I think it's a very good thing to note. That's a big difference between 62% and 7% and everybody else. So I'm glad you brought that up. But Seth's take here, it's just got a little bit more meat to it. The fatigue thing is important, and I think in your rebuttal you even responded, hey, the field's a little bit weaker because we don't have X number of players at the preserve this weekend. Well, that is due to, in some part, fatigue, and Seth's predicting we might see a couple more people drop by the time we get to tournament time. So Seth wins this duel, sends us to the next one. Brian and Seth, you guys are up. We've seen multiple lawsuits in the first half of 2023. Where is the sport at with that? What's it doing to the sport? Is there a positive spin, a negative spin? I want to hear your guys' takes. Brian, you're up first.
It's positive all day. You know why there's lawsuits? Because there's more money in our sport now. People wouldn't be dropping lawsuits if it wasn't worth their time, energy, and their dollars. That's a big thing to take note here. And more specifically, we have a great partner in the disc golf world with discgolf.law, helping us, mere mortals like myself, understand some of these complex lawsuits that are going on in layman's terms and in easier terms. We're going to see more of it. I'm surprised we haven't seen player versus manufacturer yet. I've alluded to that in the past, people getting out of contracts, getting into contracts. We have seen manufacturer against player. It didn't quite go all the way, but we'll see more and more of that. This is important. Every manufacturer, every big retail store, hope your legal teams are great. If you run big events, I hope you have a lawyer on retainer. These are important things for our sport to notice and look to in the future.
Good stuff. Brian, Seth, what is your response to this?
Yeah, so generally, I think that everything that Brian said is spot on. The only thing that I'm going to disagree with is that I do think that this is somewhat negative for the sport, only in that it takes away from what we refer to affectionately as the spirit of the game, right? We know, and we've come up, all of us who have been in disc golf for more than the past 3 years, have grown up in a game where we see camaraderie happen even amongst people battling for first and second. We see this spirit of the game that transcends not just competition, but in how we interact with each other. And so I think what we're seeing with these lawsuits, sure, are they going to come because there's more money in the game? Of course. But at the same time, it's bringing a negativity in that doesn't really flow with the spirit of the game that we have experienced in the past. And I think that it does detract from some of the positivity that we bring into the sport whenever we're promoting it to people who have never played before.
Good stuff from both of you. We got a positive, we got a negative. Bring it home, Brian. Why is positive the way to, or the thing to take away from this?
Again, I think it's positive because it still brings more eyes. There's no such thing as bad press in this specific instance. There's more people covering our sport because it's becoming a larger, more noticeable thing. These events, especially the Natalie Ryan events that are going to go to state Supreme Courts eventually, that's going to be something that's good for our sport. Whether we feel one way or the other on the outcome of those, it is what it is. But the fact that more eyes, better eyes, stronger and smarter eyes are going to be looking at our sport is a positive.
Seth, bring it home.
Yeah, I think it's great that Brian addressed the Natalie Ryan case because I think it actually highlights part of the negativity that comes with these lawsuits, right? And the reason why I think it is a net negative, and that is that there are really strong opinions on both sides, and generally from the outside viewer looking in, they are on one of the two sides, and they're vehemently going to defend the side that they're on. whether they're pro Natalie or against Natalie, at the end of the day, they're going to look at us and our sport as something that either has gotten it completely wrong or is getting it right. And at the end of the day, may not even accept us because of what the decision and the outcome of that case is. And so I think that it's a very strong point as to why there is a negative aura sort of surrounding these lawsuits.
Good stuff from both of you. I like the spin that both of you took, the points that both of you took to back it up, and I think you both have valid arguments. To pick a winner here, though, I gotta dig a little bit deeper and kind of dissect which points you guys made. Seth, you responded well to Brian's comments, and that makes this one extra tough. But I am going to give Brian the slight edge in this particular duel. So Brian takes a win here, sends us to the next one. We've got Wes versus Brian. Wes, you're going to be up first on this one. How much stock do you put in the winner of the AM Worlds tournament? You know, this year obviously is the one going on right now, but we can go in the past if you want. How much stock do you put in the winner of AM Worlds as they head onto the professional level circuit?
Yeah, I'm going to liken AM Worlds to college. Okay, not everybody makes it through college, but there are people that thrive and succeed in college, and it shows their potential to future employers or sponsors, if you will, that they have a ceiling of talent to win a major tournament. The grind for AM Worlds is pretty significant, and so to have a steady, consistent game throughout, to present yourself in a professional manner while you're there, while you're being covered on the cameras, I think shows the professional disc golf world and potential sponsors or other sponsors kind of what you're able to offer. If we look at some of the names who have won AM Worlds, Luke Humphreys, Alexis Mandujano, Noah Osborne, Erica Weir, Evan Scott, Allie Smith, Paul Kranz, Cadence Burge, I think it is. Some good names on there. Evan Scott has gone on to do big things. Luke Humphreys, we know him kind of as a little bit more of a personality, but Alexis Mandujano, Allie Smith, some really good names that we've seen kind of work their way up through the pro ranks. So I think it's like a college degree. It's certainly a great victory to have. So I put decent amount of stock into it.
Okay, Brian, how much stock?
Well, Wes is not putting enough stock in it, especially considering he is the captain of Discraft Underground, where some of those players that he mentioned in that long list and trying to take up all the good points, come from. It's important. I work. Everybody that's on this right now works or plays in the industry. If you go back through the last 5 or 6 years and you look at the top 10 FPOs and the top 20 MPOs, you're going to see names that you recognize. You're going to see people that are in our industry doing good things. Whether they're Luke Humphreys and more known for the media side, if you will, for the more recent players, or there's someone like the Linz twins that are really coming up in that FPO rank right now. I think it's really important to take stock in these players. I know that I'm watching these players. I had all the scores up today in every division, watching them, announcing them in the store live with Shay, talking about players that we want to reach out to maybe after this event. So it's something you definitely want to take stock in.
Okay, so you both are looking at these players a little bit. Brian sounds like a lot more so than Wes based on the initial statements. So Wes, go ahead and defend yourself and respond to Brian.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm watching scores. I'm watching these names and seeing who is at the top of their class coming out of this graduation class of AM Worlds, if you will. I'm certainly watching and taking stock. We have a lot of amazing underground players there as well, which Brian mentioned, and we've had underground players who have won this tournament in the past and then moved up to Team Discraft thereafter. Again, top of their class, proved what they had and able to move up from there. So again, I think this is a very important event for amateurs, especially amateurs that want to get to that next level. But we also see people that have finished outside the top 20 at AM Worlds who have gone on to do some incredible things. So I don't think that it is a one-size-fits-all. Similar to college, there's people that just get by who don't ever get recognized and, are now CEOs of major companies. I think the same is true for these amateur disc golfers. But certainly winning gets you, a step up to that next level, gets a lot more eyes, a lot more ears as to what you're doing, and so is definitely a very important tournament.
Okay, Brian, why do you deserve to win this duel?
I deserve the win because if Disc Golf Pro Tour and Disc Golf Network had this on this weekend, I would watch it over the Preserve. If it was heads up, I would 100% watch it. For someone that's in the industry like myself, it is important to do research, to learn, but to also see how these players do under pressure and on the camera. We know we have crews down there recording stuff right now for post production. I cannot wait for it to come out. Again, I think we, as in people in the industry, don't take enough stock in this event.
Okay, so Wes, you, not to throw any shade at all, I know you're looking at these players absolutely, especially with the underground stuff, but Brian did call you out initially saying, hey, why are you not taking more stock, just based on your initial statement. So for that reason, Brian, you're going to take the win in this duel. So that brings us to the next duel, Wes and Trevor. Wes, you're going to be up first. I want to know your thoughts. What are the motivations behind this lawsuit against McBeth LLC by the owner of Local Route Disc Golf in Clearwater, Florida?
Yeah, so in case anybody doesn't know about this, the lawsuit is against Dylan and Paul McBeth LLC. Somebody was hit by a disc at a tournament. What is motivating this? Greed, complete cash grab. That's absolutely where I'm going with this. When you look at the details of the lawsuit, there's I would be shocked, first off, if he wins this, but I don't think that he even knows what he's doing. I think he just threw this out there hoping that Dylan Cease, who is an MLB pitcher, would just throw him some money. Paul, who's obviously getting paid, would just throw him some money. The whole thing seems really silly to me. To begin with, participants sign a waiver, so if he wanted to go through any sort of real lawsuit channels, if he actually did some research, he would have gone through the PDGA. And then I think a really interesting point of this story is that 2 months after this injury happens, where he alleges that he can no longer enjoy life, he goes on to win a tournament in his division. Nothing says absolutely silly lawsuit like the fact that you're out winning a tournament 2 months after you claim that your life has been changed for the absolute worst forever. So completely agreed, a cash grab attempt that I think is going to get shot down.
Okay, Trevor, what's your take here?
Man, I can't even argue with Wes because he's right. Like it's completely greed. Like I know Trevor and I know Paul. I don't know Dylan, but I think this is just a money grab, man. Like if it was just a regular guy throwing a frisbee and hit him, then would he really be trying to get $50,000 out of this gentleman who works at McDonald's or Taco Bell? I don't believe so. So I think this is just a greedy thing and just something to make him feel like he's doing good. Like, let's get my name up here and let me be talked about. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really like know what the motivation is in all this, but like it seems pretty petty to get hit by a disc and charge $50,000 and sue somebody for that. It's pretty petty if you ask me. So I've been hit by a disc before, and all I went was, "Ow, dude! Watch what you're throwing." I didn't want to charge them 50, sue him for 50 grand. So it's a complete money grab, and it's all nothing but greed. So I'm sorry that this was the easiest little duel here because we both agreed. It's a stupid lawsuit.
Okay, so you're both saying the same thing. Wes, can you separate yourself at all and get yourself a win here?
Yeah, Trevor mentioned the guy wanted to get his name out there. Well, he's definitely done that. If you went and looked at the Google reviews, he went from a 4.8 star business review, had some followers, had the decent product, decent thing going, all the way down to 3 stars on Google at one point. There were hundreds of negative reviews, people that from the disc golf community that were just coming out in droves, leaving negative reviews for his business. Ultimately, Google did take some of those down, but his reviews, his rating still took a hit. Those reviews are still there. So Trevor mentioned he wanted to get his name out there. He definitely did, but for the absolute worst, which is exactly what I think this lawsuit is.
Okay, Trevor, can you win this for yourself?
So here's the thing, man. If you've been around disc golf for a long time and you've heard Trevor's name, you've heard a lot of bad stuff come with Trevor's name. So for him to do this isn't something out of the ordinary. I think a lot of disc golfers in Florida and the Southeast know that Trevor is that dude. Like, he's going to do crazy stuff to get his name out there and to get money. He's owed Castoplast like $35,000 right now for the disc that he never paid for. He's owed like $5,000 to other companies that he's not paid for these discs. So it seems like he's the snake in the grass. And I hate to say that because I know Trevor and he's always been nice to me. So I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I also don't want to defend him because I think he's making a stupid, greedy move here.
Okay, so greed. That's the answer here. An important topic to talk about, just based on how prevalent it's been in disc golf channels here this week. But you guys said the same thing. I can't really argue with anything you said, so I'll give you both a point here. Sound good? Good. All right. So next duel, we've got Trevor and Seth going at it. And we're talking about DNFs on tour. Seth, you're going to be up first. Are DNFs a problem out on the tour?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting when we talk about it sort of collectively as the tour. The reality is that in the FPO division, we actually aren't seeing DNFs popping up as frequently. And it's not something that really the FPO division seems to think is a problem. That being said, on the MPO side, it does seem to be becoming a problem. And I think where the question lies is what is a legitimate DNF and what is a fake or an illegitimate DNF. And that's where it's going to be a really hard time to draw the line. I think that right now, currently, the way that the rules are written in the PDGA for DNFs, it makes it very open for people to just sort of withdraw without any real consequence. And so because of that, it is becoming a problem. I think that until the PDGA decides to update the language of the rules on withdrawing from tournaments, we're going to actually see this become even more of a problem than it currently is.
Seth says, yes, it's a problem. Trevor, what do you say as a touring pro?
Of course it's a problem. Like, let's be honest. There used to be a thing where we get 888s if we just dropped out of a tournament, but that has seemed to like just go away. And isn't it funny that every time we talk about stuff like this, we come back to what the PDGA doesn't do or the rules that the PDGA has. So I think that it's a terrible problem. And I think the only reason it happens so much is because people want to save their ratings. Which we've talked about many times before. In my opinion, ratings are stupid. So why are they DNFing at these tournaments? Is it because of weather? Is it because they're hurt? Or is it because they just don't like the course or they're playing bad? What is it? And I think if you're just picking a side that says, I'm not playing good and I want to drop out of this tournament, then you should be penalized. But if you're hurt or weather is crazy or something you don't want to get hurt because of the weather, then I think it's okay. But we need to find a happy medium with this, with the dropping out of tournaments, because it is happening a lot. I've only done it once, and it was because I was too cold, and me and Wes have talked about the snow being the terrible problem. And 307 tournaments, I've only dropped out once. I don't feel like that's too bad, but it is becoming a big problem on tour right now, and we just got to figure out a way to fix it.
Okay, so you both say hard yes. DNFs are a problem right now. So let's transition here and move the question in a different direction. Give me a solution and why that's the way to go, Seth.
Yeah, so that's exactly where I was going to go with this. I think that we haven't really talked solutions. So first off, to answer Trevor's point about the 888, the reality is that current and the way the rule is currently written, with an 888, you basically have to no call, no show. And if you give a tournament director any sort of reason for dropping, as long as it is deemed legitimate, you get 999 and it doesn't affect your rating. And so I think that's where our starting ground has to be, right? We have to create a stronger ruling for what constitutes an 888. I think that part of this, to Trevor's point about the weather, I think that we have a question coming up in regards to inclement weather policies. I think part of the inclement weather policy should address when it becomes unsafe playing conditions, and it might be worth having a legitimate withdrawal, as opposed to when it's still considered safe to play, and if you're withdrawing because of the weather, it's going to be an 888. In the same vein, the hardest part about this to create a rule is going to be around injuries, because the reality is right now most of our touring professionals don't have adequate health care, and so we can't pull the old "you need a doctor's note." You have to. We're going to have to come up with some sort of solution there where we are able to assess whether or not there is a legitimate injury, and if not, then potentially what happens or could happen is that any sort of withdrawal is somewhat penalized, whether it's as strong as it currently is with the 888, maybe not, but it could be something in between.
Trevor's saying you're taking a
Wrap
long
it
time to
up.
spill the beans
Jesus
here, Seth.
Christ.
Trevor, what's your solution here?
Do you know how we fix this, man? We don't worry about it, to be honest. While it is a problem, why is it a worry? Like, if I drop out of a tournament, then I just didn't cash. It's my fault. Like, everybody else gets to move up a spot. So what is the legitimate problem? Why do we have an 888 or a 999 round? Why do we have all these things? Why don't we just say, hey, if you want to drop out of the tournament, you drop out, you don't get your money, move on. I think in any other sport, if it's a single sport, they drop out, they don't get penalized. So I don't know if we should get penalized or anything like that. And I think ratings are stupid anyway, so it shouldn't make any difference. So I don't know. I think there's a problem on tour because what it does right now is it's taking spots away from people that want to be on the tour. So if you drop out of the first round, these other people that are out there, they're like, oh, I could have played 3 rounds in that weather, or I could have played 3 rounds because I'm not hurt. So I think that's the problem, is taking up people's spots. I don't think the problem is that we're not getting penalized or anything. So I think 888s should really just go away, and we should just let people drop out when they want, but we should also have open spots for other players to get in the tournament.
Okay, I like where both of you went. Trevor, I thought it was interesting that you took the spin that you did, but then you kind of backtracked a little bit.
Always do.
Yeah, I know. It's classic. It's classic Trevor Harbolt here on Leppy Duels. So for that reason, I got to go with Seth. Seth takes the win here. Puts you at 2 wins. Brings us to the last duel, which is between Brian and Trevor. We got a chance to shake things up into a tiebreaker, or Brian might just sweep the episode. We'll find out here. Trevor, you're going to be up first. We're talking about inclement weather. This past weekend, we had the Des Moines Challenge. FPO had things get moved between days. MPO lost an entire round. It's happened in the past. We've seen it multiple times across multiple tournaments. So I want to hear your take on inclement weather, how it was handled, and is there a better way to go about doing it, Trevor?
I mean, I think they handled it the way that they've been handling it for the last 15 to 20 years in disc golf, right? Like, it's the old school way where we blow a horn, we delay, we wait till the lightning goes away for 30 minutes, and we come back, and then there's another lightning delay, we keep going. I think what we do is, if it's a bad storm and people are prone to getting injured, or we have bad lightning or anything like that, just cancel the tournament or cancel that round, and then just move it to Monday, just like the Pro Tour and disc golf or golf does. And the reason I say that now is the best time, because everybody on tour that's playing those tournaments has a Pro Tour card. So they're there for that tournament, and they don't have to do another one until they hit the Pro Tour. So I don't see why it's a problem now that we move it to a Monday if we have a bad day of weather. I don't understand why we can't do that anymore. So that's my thing. Move it. Let's play again on Monday.
Good take, Trevor. Brian, what is your spin on this?
My spin is going to be something you've heard here before from me, and it's really simple. It's called move the tour. We need to stop with this, go south and then west, and then south and then west again, and then back to the Midwest and then to the Northeast. Start in Florida. Slowly work your way up the East Coast by the time you get to June. You hit Maple Hill, you hit Vermont, then fly over to Europe if you want, or let's start working our way back. Move Rochester Flying Disc Open, one of the longest tournaments, it's the Silver Series, into middle June, early July, and then you can go Deglow, Ledgestone, and sweep back out and end in November in Texas or wherever you want to end. Why do we do this? Because if you look at any government website, any major weather website, tornadoes and severe weather happens in the Midwest from May to June. Stop scheduling big tournaments then.
Seems simple coming from Brian's mouth there. Trevor, go ahead and respond.
Man, easy response, dude. You cannot stop Mother Nature from doing what she wants to do. It doesn't matter where. Like, we have to have a solution to the tournaments that have inclement weather that happen in the middle of the tournament. Yes, I understand that we can move the tour a little bit and not go to Iowa like this time. Every single year we have a problem in Iowa, which I understand. But you can't stop Mother Nature, man. You go to Florida, it could have a hurricane. You go to the Midwest, it could have a tornado. You go to the West, you could have an earthquake. A volcano could erupt at any time. So we have to have some kind of stance when the weather happens. And I think doing that is moving it to a Monday. If we have one bad day of lightning and tornadoes and wind and weather where the players are like, oh, I can't do this, then we just move it to a Monday and just let them move on. And if people have flights, then guess what? It's pretty easy to change your flight. So Mother Nature cannot be stopped, Brian. I'm sorry.
So Trevor's saying move it to Monday if we have a problem. Brian's saying move the entire tour, redo the whole thing. Brian, go ahead and respond to what Trevor's saying and see if you can sweep this episode.
Trevor once again proves my point for me, and I really appreciate it. You can't control Mother Nature, you're right, but you can mitigate risk. You can't control whether it's going to rain on Monday. So what are you going to do? Move it to Tuesday then? And then the next tournament starts on Thursday and they have to travel 14 hours? No, that's not going to work. That's literally just putting a band-aid on a bad. I'm here to fix solutions. Change it, mitigate your risk, just like you don't want to play in Texas in the middle of August.
Fair points from both of you. Trevor, I think it's worth noting the Monday switch, I think, is the short-term kind of obvious solution that hasn't been done yet. There's different variables in play with, like you mentioned, travel and the next tournament and whatnot. But I think it's a viable solution that you offered there, so that's important to note. Brian, you kind of went a completely different direction, doubled down on what you said a month or two ago on this show, reworking the whole tour. I love where you went. I love the points you had to back it up. Congratulations, you've swept the episode. Episode 19 champion, Brian Popplewolf Frawley. You got the floor. What do you got for us?
Hey, it's nice to be back in the winner's circle, but I'm not going to make this about me. I want to make it about all the volunteers. Had a great time at AmNats earlier this month. Handful of Army strong volunteers. Really appreciate them. Also, shout out to Brent Guest and Above Par and his crew of volunteers who are putting in 2 or 3 courses right now. Just put in T-pads at a long-time course in Fenton. Really just getting out there and getting the work done. Thank you to all the amazing disc golf volunteers. And once again, sorry, Trevor, for your loss.
Good stuff, Brian. And you got to throw some shade at Trevor to finish it off. Wonderful stuff. Thanks for, all 4 of you for being here. Brian, congrats on the win. Wes, Seth, Trevor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate all you guys. We will be off next week for the 4th of July, so enjoy the holiday. Enjoy the Preserve Championship this weekend. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.